This set of notes is about voltaic or galvanic cells, which are also called batteries. Set of notes has been provided for you in Schoology. You know the drill. All right. So up to this point, we've been talking primarily about redox reactions and transferring electrons using a redox reaction. Okay, so in a redox, we know that one thing gains electrons, one thing loses electrons, so there is a transfer of electrons. That means electrons are moving. And whenever you get electrons moving, you can go ahead and create electricity. So we can use the energy from redox reactions to do work if we make the electrons flow through an external device. So if we take that battery and we our redox reaction cell and we hook it up to something else, we can make that something else do work. We call such a setup a voltaic or galvanic cell. All right. And so how do we do a voltaic or galvanic cell? Well, essentially what we do is we create a redox reaction where the oxidation reaction is happening in one cell or one container, and then the reduction reaction is happening in another container. Okay? So in order for that to happen then, for a electron transfer to happen between those two cells then, you need to have a wire that you can transfer the electrons through, because we know that metals will conduct electricity by moving electrons. Okay? So a typical cell looks like this. The oxidation reaction happens at the anode. The reduction reaction happens at the cathode. We remember this using the mnemonic device, an ox and a red cat. Okay, so an ox and a red cat. That reminds us that oxidation happens at the anode. Reduction happens at the cathode. Okay, so here's our cell. So let's break it down one thing at a time. So here's our anode side. The oxidation happens there. So typically, we will have, in this particular situation, we have a zinc metal bar, and we have a solution that has zinc ions in it, okay? And so oxidation is happening there. So that means that things are losing electrons. And so if zinc is losing electrons, that means it's going to form zinc positive ions that will go into solution. The electrons that are lost then, because it's an oxidation, head through the wire toward the cathode. Okay, so they move away from the anode toward the cathode. And we can kind of remember that too, because electrons are negative and they head toward the cathode, which is positive. And remember, it's got a little T in the middle. Cations, cathodes are positive. Okay, so there we go. The metal ions that are created, those go into solution, and over time that then means that the zinc metal electrode that we have gets eaten away at, because the zinc atoms that are part of it go into the solution. The other side is the cathode. Okay, on the cathode side, electrons from the wire combine with metal ions in the solution to make solid. So here you've got your copper electrode, you've got copper ions in solution, and as the electron excess forms on the surface of the copper electrode, it will react or combine with the copper ions to create a solid copper metal. Okay, so electrons from the wire combine with the metal ions in solution to make a solid. So that means over time, the concentration of this cell decreases, the ions in there go down, and metal builds up on the surface, copper metal builds up on the surface of the cathode. All right, you will notice that there's one more piece to our voltaic cell here, and that is this thing in the middle called a salt bridge. Okay, the salt bridge is there just to allow charge to be able to flow. So you can imagine that in order for us to be able to make this reduction happen, as soon as the electrons go away from here and you're left with an excess of zinc positive ion in this solution, this solution over here gets a positive charge buildup. Okay? On the other side, what you end up with is the electrons come in here and they start removing the 2+ ions there, which creates a positive ion deficit or a buildup of negative charge. So you have to be able to go ahead and neutralize or keep that charge neutral between the entire thing. And so what happens is you put a salt bridge in here, and what the salt bridge does is as the copper ions are used up over here on the right side, they get replaced by sodium ions in the solution that will make it so that the charge balance maintains, so that this solution over here stays neutral. Likewise, the nitrate in the salt bridge will come into the zinc solution, thereby getting rid of some of these, the +2 ion on this side, the plus overcharge, and keeping this side neutral as well, and that keeps the charges flowing around. So as a result of that, again, cations or positive ions migrate toward the cathode, and anions migrate toward the anode. And those are the basic mechanics of how a voltaic cell or a battery works.